Hi, I'm Lucy Edwards, Director of Client Success at VHT Studios. And today, in this beautiful apartment, I have a pleasure and an honor to meet and interview Richard Grossman, the president of Brown Harris Stevens. Hello, Richard.
Good morning, Lucy. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you indeed. And I would like to talk about several topics, but the most important is the brand from the company and also the agent's brand, and how your agents leverage both and what you do to help them.
Sure. Well, to me, brand is about a promise of a level of service before you meet the client. So it's about meeting expectations. So having a good brand and having a good reputation. And part of being the brand of the company is people know if they deal with an agent from Brown Harris Stevens, they're going to get a level of service, both from a marketing perspective, but also from the craft and the business of real estate, that they're going to be serviced properly. The agent will know what they're doing in business, they'll know how to market the property, they'll know how to vet buyers, and they'll know how to complete the transaction.
Yeah, that is amazing, and I think it is so right, the consistency, just like you said, and every agent at Brown Harris Stevens with their brand and with their personal brand have the consistency how they approach buyers and sellers.
Correct, and I think from an agent's point of view, I think it's very important for an agent to define themselves. There's a lot of agents in the industry, and you need to set yourself apart. So you set yourself apart either through the work you do, the products you represent, the buyers you represent, but also having the materials that are presented in a certain fashion that reflects who you are as an individual. And that's a way for an agent to have a brand, to be part of, within a larger brand of the company, to set themselves apart. So that when they know that they're dealing with XYZ agent, that they're going to have a certain look to the listing, they're going to have maybe do certain videos that'll have a certain sort of consistency to it, and that the expectation is that the experience is going to be consistent across the board.
Thank you. Well, Richard, we spoke briefly about a totally new direction, residence and lifestyle. You take Miami or New York City, Los Angeles, and how different it became in the last year.
Sure. What I've seen, and I think this started possibly even before COVID, but we've certainly seen it accelerate during COVID, which is that people are looking at their residences in a different way. And they're looking at them to make lifestyle choices. And I'm not talking about going into a lifestyle community. I'm talking about that they want their home and where they live to enhance their quality of life. What does that mean? It means that instead of necessarily having one large apartment in New York City, they may say to themselves, you know what, I'll have an apartment in New York City and an apartment in Miami. I'll have an apartment in New York City and I'll have an apartment maybe in Paris or Barcelona. And it's about leveraging their assets to give them a different quality of life. Because quite frankly, you know, a lot of people at a point in their lives, they can work remotely, they can maybe handle business differently than they handled in the past. We've learned that through COVID. And they're saying to themselves, how do I enjoy all the success I've had and I've built up? And we're seeing a lot of that. We're seeing people who live in the Midwest buy homes in New York. We're seeing people in New York buy homes in Paris. We're seeing people in New York buying places in other parts of the country, whether it's in Los Angeles or Palm Springs, to give themselves a contrast to what they have. They may have an urban American lifestyle. Maybe they want something that's more of a beach. Maybe they want something that's more desert-like. Maybe they want something that's more European in feel. And I think the things that that a lot of people are looking for that's driving a little bit are certainly economics. People are looking for things they can afford. In many places in the world, if you're taking the dollars of large New York or American cities like New York, where prices are very high, the spending power of that in places even like Paris or Barcelona can go a lot further in terms of home ownership. So we're seeing a lot of that.
And it used to be, especially like with my interviews in Miami, for example, oh, we have a lot of South American buyers, we have some European buyers, but now I understand a lot of American citizens would like to purchase a place, like you said, in Paris or in Barcelona or somewhere in Italy, and they really enjoy. So it's a slightly different shift of the market, that Americans are enjoying Europe and South America and getting places there as well.
That's correct. And I think that the difference here is that they're doing it to not just as a place to retire, not just as a place to go maybe for a short period of time, but to really make a life change. They're saying to themselves, I'll spend maybe 6 months of the year in New York, 6 months someplace else. And it's enjoy the quality of life. For instance, I know people who love Florida because they can play tennis all year long. So they they'll go down in October, they'll come back in April, but for 6 months they'll be there playing tennis as part of their daily life. And that's obviously it's not something you can do outside in the Northeast in the wintertime. So we're seeing people make that. They haven't given up their businesses in New York, they haven't given up their lives in New York, but they're giving up part of it to be someplace else.
And you also mentioned that friend of yours just recently purchased a place in Paris in a very residential area, which I personally love.
So a friend of mine, what got me thinking on this is it exactly that, is a friend of mine recently bought a place in the Bastille in Paris, and it was a certain price point to purchase. It was a one-bedroom apartment. He paid whatever the local price is for the apartment, but more importantly, and I asked him, what does it cost you per year or per month to own the apartment? He says it cost him $4,000 per year between his common charges and his real estate taxes. And if you contrast that to New York or to America, that's a very, very low number, which means that it's affordable for a lot of people. Quite frankly, in New York, a two-bedroom apartment, the maintenance may be $4,000 a month. This is $4,000 per year. It becomes an affordable alternative to people who are especially at a point in their lives where maybe they're winding down their careers a little bit and they're looking at lower incomes. So there certainly makes it a sort of a fun alternative. And who doesn't want to be in Paris for 6 months of the year? Come on.
Exactly. The lifestyle, that is so important. I think it is a great movement. I would love to join that movement.
I would love to join that movement as well. And it may not be Paris, but it could be Barcelona, it could be Athens, it could be Madrid, it could be someplace fun. And it also becomes a sort of a jumping off point for the rest of Europe as well.
I would like to talk about shortage of inventory and bidding wars. They are created, I can see, in every part of the country. I would like to find out from you and how you deal with your agents and the education. It's something completely different that is taking place and taking place quite often now.
Sure. So certainly we're seeing a lot of multiple bid situations with bidding wars in many of our markets that we serve. One of the things that I do that I'm actually quite passionate about is teaching agents to have a strategy when it comes to the situation, whether you represent a seller or whether you represent a buyer. And they kind of mirror each other one way or the other. But at the end of the day, it should be about having good communication skills, having clarity. What are the goals of the owner? Is price, of course, is important, but so are terms to the owner as well. How quickly will they sell? Will the person close on the property? Is the person qualified to buy the property? And other terms that may be important to the seller. Make sure you understand those up front. Secondly, communicate that with the buyers and co-brokers what the seller is looking for, so that you can manage the expectations of both the seller and the buyers that come along in the process. And have a strategy and discuss the strategy with your client, whether you're representing the buyer or the seller, about what you're looking to do. And what I find is that if you can educate agents the right way, you will be able to take a situation that's a lot of fun, bidding wars, there's a lot of adrenaline flowing around, but you got to stick to some basics and you got to be very focused on what you're doing and having a plan to try to achieve what you're trying to achieve for the owner.
You just spoke about bidding wars and the strategy and being focused, and that is very important. So how would you recommend for agents to handle themselves and educate themselves going forward from their daily life and apply it to everything, not just to bidding wars, but also to grow and maybe be adventurous and create new marketing directions or explore new markets? So
let me talk about that in two ways. First of all, I'm a big believer in what I call the art and the craft of real estate, the business and the craft of real estate. And I believe that a good agent is always going to be learning and developing their craft and their skill set. So something that I've done my entire career in real estate is try to always improve myself, improve my skill set so it's better. But let's talk about marketing for a bit. Part of an agent's brand is how they market property. And let's say you have a bidding war. Let's step back a second. When you go meet with an owner, you're going to tell the owner you're going to do 5 things or 10 things to market their property. But you may start getting offers on that property before you complete all those 10 things. In my opinion, it's important to go through and deliver to the seller what you're going to deliver for several reasons. Number one, it's part of your brand. You're telling your owner you're going to do these things. Make sure you complete them because it's the right thing to do. You'll need some of these pieces for future projects. But number two is you don't know that just because you get into a multiple bid situation that one of those offers will stick. Deals do die, and you want to be fully prepared to go move forward in case one of those deals dies. And lastly, it's also about just going through your word to your seller. Just because you got an offer quickly, that's great that you did that, but you still want to complete to your seller the things you told them to do, because that's part of your brand about delivering what you say you're going to deliver.
I'm so happy you said that, because we are right now experiencing, as a marketing company, we're experiencing with agents, oh, that house is going to be sold before the lunchtime. There is no reason for me to go through my marketing strategy. Photography, I will do that, but that is just as far as I get. And in my opinion, you promised your seller. That's why you got that listing. You got the listing because you had that fabulous strategy. And the deal can fall apart. That is also true. But most importantly, it's consistency. That is your reputation.
It's your reputation. I agree with what you said, Lucy. It's your reputation and it's your brand. And part of your brand is to deliver what you say you're going to deliver. And that's what you owe it to your clients. And you know, the client's going to sit there, remember, you said you're going to do all these 5 or 7 things. And if you don't do those 5 or 7 things, believe me, they will say something. And listen, if things go great for the property and things go well, that's great. But it's like insurance. If it doesn't go great, you still need to have a backup in order to move forward. And the best time to do that is when the property is new, when it's fresh, when you're listing it, so you put it out there.
I like how you compare it to the insurance. Yes, thank God you don't have to use it, but if you do, here you are totally ready and prepared.
And I think being prepared as an agent, whether it's being prepared for a bidding war, which is knowing how bidding wars flow so you can anticipate certain things and manage your seller's expectations as well as your buyer's expectations, is important as well. And to give you an example of this in terms of bidding wars. You know, if in a bidding war comes about, you may get 5 bids on the property. What happens if after you've accepted one of the offers, the second bidder comes in higher? Or do you go back to the first offer? Do you just go with the second offer? Part of this is having a conversation with your owner about the possibilities. This is a possibility that we do see happen. And to have the discussion with the owner up front, what will you do if this happens, helps you keep control of that situation in a better fashion. And to be fair to all the parties involved.
Being consistent with your brand, your reputation, brings you more referrals. And some agents have up to 75–80% of their business is referral business. And Brown Harris Stevens, with your offices being in various parts of the country, how your agents leverage the referral business?
Well, to me, referrals are all about relationships. And relationships are about consistency and doing what you tell people you're going to do. It's about also thinking of the other person before you think about yourself. So, you know, in anything, it's about putting yourself out there. It's about understanding the needs of people. It's about delivering a good product and being, you know, skillful at what you do, whether you're representing a buyer or you're representing a seller, and about making sure that your brand is consistent with and true to who you are. I'm going to give you an example. I had a client of mine who was a very good client of mine for a very long time, and on one property he decided not to use me as for his service. This is going back a few years, and he used somebody else because he owed them a favor. And he came back to me and he said, "Richard, you make everything look so easy." I said, "That's because I do what I'm going to say I'm going to do for you, and I have discussions with you, because the situation he had with using someone that he owed a favor to was a very different experience than he had with me, and it was about referrals. From then on in, he stuck with me as a client, and I think that's important. But a little bit of that is understanding the business, being a couple steps ahead of where you need to be, delivering on what you say you're going to deliver, and thinking of the other person's needs before you think of your own. And that's the basis of being a good real estate agent or real estate broker, is a fiduciary. It's understanding that we're working for someone else on their behalf, and we have to know what their needs are, understand those, and use our skills to help manage the process for their benefit.
Well said. That is so true. That is absolutely true. And again, being consistent and being true to your word, and it will come back to you 100 times.
I agree with that. I live, that is how I live my life. And it's, you know, I've been in this business, as I mentioned to you earlier, 38 years. I've done some of the same business with people for over 30 years. And part of that is you develop a way of doing business with these people. You have a reputation. They know that it's consistent, and they become part of your life and part of your family, quite frankly.
Well, today we had a great opportunity to spend some time with Richard Grossman, the president of Brown Harris Stevens. And thank you so much for being here with us. Go to vht.com/learn to watch all of my videos, and you have a great day. Cheers!